This is a very, very important music theory. The musical alphabet starts from A and ends till G. Okay? From A to G. That's the musical alphabet. It does not, there is no H. Okay? From A to G. And I want you to grab a pen and paper and write this down. Okay? Please grab a pen and paper and write this down because you're not going to remember it. I'm going to put a diagram somewhere on the screen so that you can see it. Okay? But I also want you to write it down. The musical alphabet is from A to G, but it's not strict from A to G. There are spaces in some places, and some of the spaces are bigger than others. So from A to B, you have a whole step. It doesn't make sense right now, but just learn it. Okay? Just keep it in mind because it will make sense later on in this video. From A to B is a whole step. From B to C is a half step. Okay? From C to D is a whole step. From D to E is a whole step. From E to F is a half step. And then from F to G is a whole step. So basically, you only have 2 half steps. You have a half step from B to C, and then you have another half step from E to F. Everything else is a whole step. I repeat. You have a half step from E to F. You also have a half step from B to C. But everything else is a whole step. Okay, all right. So let's recap and let me test you really quickly. From A to B, what is it? It's a whole step. From B to C is a half step. It's one of the half steps from B to C, and then the other half step is from E to F. Okay? A to B is a whole step. B to C is a half step. C to D is a whole step. D to E is a whole step. E to F is the other half step. And then F to G is a whole step. So how does that translate on the bass? Okay. On the bass, each of these segments represent half steps. Okay. So if I move from here to here, you see this line? When I move from this space to this other space, that's a half step. From here to here, that's a half step. From here to here, and so on. Half step, half step, half step, half step. That's very important for a bass player, okay? And then whole step, if this is half step, what would a whole step be? A whole step would be skipping this half step and jumping here, okay? So this will be a whole step. From here to here will be a whole step. From here to here is a whole step. From here to here is a whole step. From here to here is a whole step. So if I want to play a whole step, where will I go? I'll go here. If I want to play a half step, where will I go? I'll go here. Okay. Another half step here. Another half step here. A whole step here. Okay. Another whole step here. Another whole step here. A half step here. A half step here. Does that make sense? That's very important for you to learn the notes on the bass guitar, because you have to understand whole step and half step. Okay. And remember, the only places on the bass that you have half steps are between C and B. So from B to C, you have a half step. And from E to F, you have a half step. Okay. So now the third part of this segment is knowing what to do with, knowing what does the whole step represent. The half step represents nothing because there is no space. You see? So from here to here is a half step, which means it represents nothing. There's no space. So from here to here is a whole step. That means this represents something. Can you guess what that thing means? This represents a sharp or a flat. You've heard before that, well, play in the key of C. Transpose to C sharp. Play in the key of D. Go to D sharp or go to E flat. Because from D to E, there's a space. There's a space. And in the space, there is D sharp and E flat. Okay? So, welcome to the next lesson, where we learn how to name the notes on the bass. Okay? Where we learn how to name the notes. The trick I will say you should do is to learn a couple spots on the neck where you can remember the notes, because it will take a very long time for you to just point here and know that note, point here and remember that note. Okay. So what I did in the beginning was that I chose certain spots on the neck that was easy to remember, and I remember the note name. And then from that note, I will find the notes around it to know the names. Okay. So as I said before in the last lesson, okay, let me just go back. Remember, when you are toning the bass, okay? This is E, this is A, this is D, and this is G. E, A, D, G. Okay? That means, because these are also playable notes. If you leave the string and play this first string, that's E right there. Okay? This first string here, because when you play this string without holding it, that means you're playing this note right here. And that's E. If you play this note here without, that means you're not striking any note here. You just pluck the string, it will be out here as well. That will be A. This is E, this is A, this is D, and this is G. Okay? E, A, D, G. All right? So, now that you know that this is E, A, D, G, and you know that the musical alphabet end with G, right? You know that the musical alphabet ends with G, and then it begins from A again. So wherever you find E, you go up. Wherever you find C, you go up. Wherever you find D, you go up, and you end at G, okay? So this is E, right? E, if this is E, this will be F. If this is F, this will be F sharp. If this is F sharp, this will be G. Okay? Because from E to F is one step. It's half step. From E to F is half step. From F to G is whole step. Because it's whole step, that means in between there is a sharp or there's a flat. Okay? So as we covered in the lesson before, as we covered in the section before this section, you learned that from E to F is a half step. And because there's a half step, that means there is no flat and there is no sharp in between. Okay? From F to G, there's a whole step. That means there's a space in between. And this space is a flat or a sharp. So it's F sharp, but it's G flat. This same note has two names. Every space, every whole step has two names. Okay? It's F sharp because you are sharpening the F note and you are flattening the G note. So it's G flat. Okay? F sharp, G flat. From G to A is a whole step. What does that mean? That means this space here is either a sharp or a flat. So this will be G sharp. This will be A flat. Okay? You can call it either name. You can call it G sharp or you can call it A flat. And what did I say? The musical alphabet stops at A. You can continue if you want, but the musical alphabet stops at A. Okay? So remember, E, F, G, A. The musical alphabet stops at G, not A. It stops at G. So E, F, and G. Okay? And from E to F is a half step, which means there's no sharp or flat. From F to G, there is a half step. There's a whole step, which means this is F sharp and this is G flat, the same note. E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A. Okay? So we'll do everything and end to A. That's the first string. Okay? The second string, you go from A to A sharp, because from A to B is a whole step. Okay? From A to B is a whole step. So that means this will be A flat and A sharp, and this will also be B flat. Okay? Remember, it's E, A, D, G. So since this is A, that means this will be A sharp, and then this will be B. This will be B flat, A sharp, B flat. Now this is B, and between B and C, there is no flat or sharp. Okay, so from B, it's just C. A sharp, B, C. From C, this is D. And remember, it's a whole step. So between C and D, there is a sharp and a flat. So C sharp, D flat. Okay? Now from D to E is also a whole step, which means this is D sharp, E flat. From E to F, there is no sharp or flat. Okay? It's just E and F. So let's go back. A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D sharp, E, and then F. Okay? From F to G, there is a sharp. So this is F sharp right here. F sharp, G. And remember from G to A, there's a sharp as well. So G sharp, A. You see that? So beginning on the first string again. E, F, because from E to F, there is no flat or sharp. E, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B, and then C, because from B to C, there is no flat or sharp. This is C. And then from C sharp, D sharp, E, and then F again. From E to F, there is no flat or sharp. So it just goes from E to F. Okay? So I have showed you the first two strings. I want you to figure these two strings out. Okay? Remember, the first note on each is E, A, D, and G. So use the wheel, use the notes that I gave you in the previous section and fill out these two strings. Okay? It's a responsibility to learn this. There is no way I can put it in your head. You have to learn it. Okay? E, A, D, G. This never changes. Okay? And as long as you remember that from E to F, there is no flat or sharp. Just remember where there's a space and where there's a flat or sharp. And then you'll be able to name all of these notes all the way down. Okay? All right. So firstly, I'm going to show you how to